hello everybody. Welcome to the Supercharge Dialogues, episode 5 already. I think this is our fifth time we are doing this, and today we are very honored to have Chi Xia with us, which I will get her to share with everyone who she is and what she does, okay? But welcome to those who are new, really welcome to this Supercharge Dialogues series. We do this almost every month on a monthly basis to tackle about different kinds of topics out there that are in relation to life matters and what is truly practical and how should we actually deal with it. So we get experts as well as those who are very who have in-depth knowledge on the situation to really share with us what are these practical tips that we can use in our daily life. Okay, so if you guys are here, please do feel free to ask any questions in the comments, on Facebook, which is where you're at, on the chat. Please do, and we'll get to them later on as we go through this whole session. Okay, this session is about 1 hour, so we'll try our best to really gain insights from each other. And today's a bit different, right? Today we're gonna do a bit more fireside chat. So just to introduce myself. My name is Leon, and I'm one of the co-founders, together with Timothy, for the Brand Up Co. Private Limited, and the company is really here to really boost people up in terms of their credibility and push them forward, to achieve greater heights. So, Timothy?
Oh, okay. It's my turn to introduce myself.
Yes.
My name is Timothy. I'm also one of the founders of the Brand Up Co. And we are here to see how we can value add people. Right? So conversations that are real, conversations that are applicable to you, and we thought this would be a really good platform to reach people and to share our experiences, and hopefully people can have pointers to take away and apply into their own lives. But we're going to keep it as informal as we can. I know we're not face to face, but given the current circumstances, this is the best we can do. So we're gonna keep it lighthearted. We're gonna just talk on some topics related to relationships and how you can cultivate them, and we're gonna share our experiences. We've all got different backgrounds and varied backgrounds, and of course we have Chi Xia with us, who's got a wealth of experience and knowledge in this particular area, and she can lend her expertise to share her points of view as well. And I think that will be really interesting in terms of the insights that she can give to us. And so, without further ado, I'm going to ask Chi Xia to maybe just do a quick introduction of herself, what she does, and how her family is like.
Hello. Okay, thanks, guys. This is Chi Xia, and as you can see, my title says relationship coach. Okay, I think we are all in the same space where we're gonna just be sharing some of our own experiences and journey in this relationship space, right? So not coming from the expert space at all, because I think in relationship we're always learning. There isn't a point in time where we can actually reach like this is it, a relationship is done. But it's always it's relationship is a journey of growth where you grow together, you learn together, right? But my passion is always in working, especially with couples, because I believe that couples can have a very lasting relationship that can be loving as well. Not just lasting, but loving. I think we want to do better than just lasting, which is not the only way. When marriage lasts a long time, but it can really be something that can be really fulfilling, right? And so the other space that I'm really passionate about is really the parent-child relationship. I believe fundamentally at the end of the day, what's most important for our kids to have as a secure base is the relationship they have with us. Right, so that's where I'm from.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Chi Xia. You mentioned about the whole thing about parent-child space. I think I'm not a parent myself yet, but when interacting with siblings and things like that, I think it really showcases a lot about how a family dynamic is. And I mean, Tim and I both know that your own family dynamics is very interesting. So I get yourself to share a bit more about that. But since we're on that topic, right? Just to kickstart this whole thing, why don't we just ask a bit more about how this pandemic situation has probably shaped your own family, and then maybe
Yes.
we can ask him as well, and we can all share different circumstance. How did this pandemic situation really shape your family? And I feel like a lot of families out there nowadays, because they stay together more often than not, they're really quite on the edge, lah. And yeah, I heard a lot of fights here and there and things like that. How can we actually improve on that? What do you do for your own family? And how should we better this kind of situations, lah? Maybe we can kickstart with that first. Yeah.
Cool. All right, sure. Just a bit of a dynamics of the family. I think Leon is probably referring to. I've got 3 kids, right? Just a bit of background. My eldest was adopted. She has turned 18 recently, and then I've got 2 miracle birth kids, one 17 and one 12 this year. All right. So I'm also big on adoption. So anybody listening, curious about adoption, get in touch with me. I'd love to share with you. Okay. In terms of the start of COVID, I think just go by principle, right? In any relationship, I think that's really always that tension of we need connection with people that we're close with, but yet at the same time we also need our personal space, right? Which is the autonomy. When pandemic is not happening regular time, we have a lot of our own personal space where we go to work, we have our own social life, we go to church, we go to community services where we are not with our family members. So there's that breathing space that's outside, right? But at the same time, we also need to be connected to the family, right? So you said the first thing that happened during pandemic is your sense of autonomy actually shrunk from 0, right? So in my household, plus my helper, got 6 of us, right? So the very first thing I think it's really important. I think the connection is always very important when it comes to relationship. Connection meaning, do I spend time? Do I feel loved? Do I feel seen? Do I feel like I'm important in the family? Do I feel like I'm part of this family? Do I feel like I matter? That's the connection part, right? Autonomy part is, can I be myself? Can I have the space to myself? Can I have the space where I can do my own thing? Right. So the minute the pandemic started, that was something that we were very intentional to make sure that we put in place, that each of us had our own corner. Right.
Yeah, that's
And because we're
important.
all together, was like find your own corner. So we had to like craft out time as much as possible. So like my daughter has her own corner, my other daughter has her own corner, and then my son has his corner. And then the adults have to move around now. So I'm the most mobile one. Whenever that corner is not being used, nothing urgent, I will go fill that space. Right. But I think that corner is so important that we can call our own when we're in each other's face all the time. Right. So to keep that balance between autonomy and connectedness. Right. Because what makes that connection works is also having that personal space. Yeah, that happens at the same time.
Yeah, it's a good way to keep your sanity at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting that you mentioned that because I mean, talking about being around the family a lot, and but still having to find space for yourself. And I remember this incident that I had with my daughter. Not really an incident, it's something that she said to me. And just a bit of background, because I was in corporate work for like 15 years, and corporate work, and I used to do regional work, so I used to fly around a lot. So I wasn't at home a lot. When the kids were younger, I actually worked and came back, and they probably were asleep by the time I came back, so I really didn't see them a lot. And then a few years back, I left the industry. I went to do my own, run my own business. And I was around a lot more, right? So I could fetch the kids around. I could spend some time with them. They saw me at home quite a bit. And after a while, they got used to it, having me around.
Yeah.
And then last year when, the pandemic hit and I started on this whole phase where I was looking at training and doing different things, webinars at night, coaching at night. And I didn't realize this. So, I thought I was around because, everything's via Zoom and I'm sitting in the room that I'm sitting now, a study room. And I spend all my time here, but I'm at home, right? It's better than, when I was traveling. And then one day my daughter told me this. He said, I don't like it now, no. That's what she told me. She doesn't like it now because and I asked her why. And she said, "Oh, because I cannot see you anymore." I said, "But I'm around, what? I'm at home. I'm you basically just walk and you see me." And she said, "But yes, but when I go to sleep, I cannot hug you because you're in a webinar, your door is closed, or you're doing something." And I realized it's not just being around; it's being accessible as well, right? So physically, I'm here, but they can't get to me. Right, and I realized that I never thought about it. All the while, I just thought that I was around. I'm at home. I'm at home a lot now. Compared to what I was before. But to them, they didn't feel it because I'm still not accessible to them. It's as if I'm not around. Right.
Yeah.
So to me, I realized that it's not good enough just to be physically around. There still needs to be you still need to engage with them, right? And I make it a point to send my kids to school, fetch them, bring them around, partly so that I have time with them, and partly to also show them that they are important. That I'm willing to wake up at 5-6 o'clock in the morning just to send them somewhere when technically my daughter's 15, she can go to school on her own. Like, she's supposed to go to school on her own. But she asked me to send her, I send her, right? And to me, that's important that they know that in a sense, I've got that back, lah. If you need something from me, I'm there. Even if it's more difficult for me, I will do it. I've got this arrangement with her that I told her that no matter what time it is, no matter where you are, if you need me to fetch you, and I'm available, I will. Right, so obviously she takes advantage of it a lot, lah. But but it's a promise, right? Because I feel that this is something I want to do for them, and it's a way of me showing that I do care enough to even inconvenience myself to do something for you, right? So and I feel that's demonstrating the fact. It's easy to say that I love you. Sometimes it's a little more difficult to demonstrate it, and I just feel that that's one of the things that I can do, to demonstrate the fact that they're important still, that I want to spend time with them. I want to engage with them. It may not be the exact way they want to engage, but, there are things that I'm willing to do with them. And I will make time for them. Yeah.
I mean, Tim, you had some important points that you mentioned. And I think Chisia also, you mentioned something about, giving space and everything. And at the same time, Tim, you're talking about how your daughter and everything, you will always make yourself accessible. I guess now my question maybe to Chisia is more towards, because, okay, for example, for my own life and my own family, I guess sometimes we find it very hard to manage this balance, right? How do we know whether it's right to give people time, or how do we know that it's right to be in their life at that point in time, be accessible? But sometimes, maybe I feel like it's time to go and interact with my siblings, for example, but then they're all busy, doing all their own things. And then they'll be like, why you come inside my room? Why you care about me? So I guess it's very challenging in that sense sometimes. So I think I'm just wondering, for Chisia, how do you all manage that? How do you all know that, do you have like specific times, like dinner time is a time that you all should interact, or, how do we really look into such things?
No, definitely. I think that has a lot to do with life stages and depending on the ages of the people in the family, right? So I think for younger kids, especially like when I'm primary school, it's probably lower secondary. So that sense of routine is really important. Where routine and where they have certain things that they do, but we also then have more crafted out time on the weekends or even on the evenings where the family do things together. Right. So the kids, like for us, it would be like like I'm really big on in the morning. So my connection with my kids are always in the morning. Right. So I wake them up individually. Like Tim, they can use the alarm clock, but it's mom who's going to do it because my 3 kids wake up differently. Like my son, I will hug him, kiss him until he wakes up. My eldest one, I will have to slap her because she's such a deep sleeper. And slap, and And then my second one, I just wiggle her toe and then she will go back to sleep. I have to wake up another 10 minutes. But those are
Okay.
important time for me where I connect with them. So I always make sure that I'm
Mm.
the one who actually prepare breakfast for them. Of course, my helper can, but that is my time with them. Then I
I
always make
see.
sure that I send them off individually in the morning with like a prayer with a kiss or something. Right. So that
Mm.
is my way of connecting with them. Right. But for some parents, if you need to rush up in the morning, that may not be your way. But you need to find a
Mm.
very targeted one-on-one time where the kid know that they have your full attention.
Yeah.
Right.
I
And then
see.
that has to work with the child. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's when they were younger, but then when they're older, it's different because when they're older, they need a lot more their own time, right? So now our family time, because it's so difficult to schedule family time now with two teenagers. So we
Mm.
make sure that we always have one meal a week, and then the kids also work around that schedule, right? And we try to
Mm.
make sure that we have at least 1 to 2 family trips, right? And those are very targeted time, right? So on
Mm.
a regular basis, a little bit less. Uh, I am a lot less uptight with having meals together on a week daily basis because it is just impossible, right? To wait for
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah. So you
Yep.
have to adjust and adapt in terms of the life stage and also personality, right? So my
Mm.
my eldest, when she is like down, she wants to talk. She talk and talk and talk, and then I have to sit there and listen, right? So I have to be present for her when she needs to download. But my second
Mm.
one,
Mhm.
she kind of tired. Don't even touch me. Like, don't talk to me. I want to rest. Then I have to wait and
Uh,
see the mood, lor, right? So
yeah.
it's
Oh my
on in
goodness.
them. Yeah.
Mm.
So that's teenagers, right? So then the next phase they're gonna grow up. So I think it's really responding to each other's needs and
Mm.
find the time to really connect. Like,
I
yeah.
totally
The way,
understand that though.
yeah.
Yeah.
The don't touch me, I'm in a bad mood.
Exactly.
I get that a lot.
You get
but
You
I,
it.
get it from your.
uh, but I do. Okay, as far as possible, we do have dinner together. So
Yeah.
so
Uh,
I think for the longest time, it's always been everybody sits down at the table and we have dinner together.
Mm.
And most days it's possible, unless I have to rush off to church or for some reason or whatever, then I'm not around.
Yeah.
If not, then we always sit down and have dinner together as far as
Yeah.
possible. So weekdays, weekends, in fact, most meals, as long as everybody's home, we sit down and eat together. Right? So
Mm.
now it's a little bit more than normal. Now we've got lunch as well.
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. That's a bonus.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah. You can
so
cook
Yeah.
we
lunch
do
together. Yeah.
we do that. Right? I think it's uh, we may not talk a lot during those times, but I think it's important that the whole family sits together and has a meal together, and
Mm.
it's part of the routine that we've created
Yeah.
since years ago, right?
Yeah.
So that they to them it's normal. This is what we do as the family, lah, right? So we sit down
Yeah.
and have a meal together.
Yeah.
Mm.
Weekends
Yeah.
tend to be a little bit more fluid, like, actually, because it really depends on what's happening on the weekend, right?
Yeah.
But
Mm.
most days, I mean, my kids honestly don't like to go out that much for some reason. I don't know. So
Yeah. They
they're
like to
always.
play games.
My son likes to play games. My daughter likes to watch Korean shows. So
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it.
No, no, I think the really important thing is you have to be very intentional in
Mm.
crafting
yeah,
out these times, right? Because it's even so it's like, yeah, having dinner every night together, that takes intention and that takes
Yeah.
the effort to put in to build that habit, right?
Mm.
So it is. There is like no right way to do it. Like there are families who eat together, but every time they eat together, it's like very stressful. Then I would rather you find alternative way to connect, all right?
Mm.
But if it works, then it's a great habit to have, right?
Mm.
So it really is find out what works with your family, but make sure that there is something intentional because it doesn't happen by chance, right? It
Mm.
doesn't just happen because let's get together. Oh, no fear. Okay, the next time. Yeah. Then over time you get used to having each other in each other's lives. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, speaking about that, because I mean, both of you are parents and you have your other half, right? How much does your other half play a part? I think in setting the tone and everything, because I'm sure both of you have different ways and means, right? I mean, everyone always say like me and my girlfriend also think different things. Maybe in the future, I don't know, we have different styles of having our gatherings or whatnot. But how do y'all like balance that? And who sets the tone? Or you talk about being intentional and things like that, right? Is it one or the other that will set that? Because I mean, sometimes a lot of people keep saying, like, oh, one person be the bad guy and one person be the good guy, and then we'll see how that goes, kind of thing. But I think that has changed, right? So yeah, I'm just thinking for your like for Chisia and even for Timothy, right? Your other half, how do you all like decide to set the tone for your family? Yeah,
You communicate lah. So you got to talk to each
communicate
other.
lah.
Yeah. So
Yeah lah, true lah.
yeah. So it's I think it's a consensus, right? So there needs to be some form of discussion as to how we want to bring up our kids and the things that are important to us in terms of values and how we're going to communicate that across to our children. So it is a conversation that you need to have with your spouse. I feel right, and I mean, honestly, my wife and I are quite different in terms of our characters, and we both have our different strengths, and in that sense, we complement each other a little bit. It also, because we are different, it also annoys each other because we are not anything like each other, right?
Yeah.
So so it's part and parcel of growing together, right? I've been with my wife for a long time, right? So we've been married for. I always tell people this, and it's a bit of a wow. So we've been married for 17 years, but we've been together since we were 15. So practically So for the last almost 30 years, we've been together. Okay?
Wow.
One and only this one.
Yes, one only lah. I started at 15,
Yeah.
quite difficult to have many lah.
This one trying to showcase true love. True love is
No, it was difficult. It was really difficult, especially if you start so early. So it was really, really difficult. I don't recommend this to people because it was really hard at the beginning, right? Especially when you're young and you have a lot of issues. But somehow we made it and we're here. But even then, being together so long, it's still constantly having to discuss things. I mean, it's not like we don't annoy each other still. Right? We still do annoy each other. And that's part and parcel. I mean, the conflicts are part and parcel. We scream at each other once in a while. It's all part and parcel of relationships, I feel. Right? But it needs to be talked out and resolved and not left to fester, and then you have real problems. Right? So if we can talk through some of these things and we can and if the communication is open enough, I feel it's something that you can work through. None of us are perfect, right? So we're always going to have to, like Chisia said in the beginning, relationships are a work in progress. And I don't think you ever reach a stage where you say that, oh, no, fantastic, no problems at all. My parents just celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, and I think they still have things to work through. so I don't think I'm going to be any better than that. It's going to be a work in progress until the day that we die.
true lah. True.
Yeah.
Chisia?
Yeah, no, I kind of agree, but I think it's very cliche to hear that communication and resolving differences. You have to work on it, but that's the foundation to any good relationship, right? Not just I think at home with spouse, with kids, but even bringing that to work. Any relationship requires any good quality, solid relationship requires communication, requires the speaking, the listening, the respect, the resolving or finding a way to work out the differences, right? So I think that there's no difference in terms of how that principles is applied in every or any good relationship, right? But if we kind of bring it back to the home front, again, every couple's style is different, but for just a little bit of a personal space, we have decided when the kids were younger, I would take a more flexible work role, right? So I have been the one who's at home. So when kids are sick and stuff like that, I would have, because being a freelancer, so I have that flexibility of attending to the kids. right?
Mm.
But because of that, we also then need to make some adjustments to lifestyle, because that will be 1.5 income to 3 kids, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the things that as Tim mentioned, you have to talk through about what's important to you, what
Mm.
kind of values you want to instill in your family, and what's important, what are the priorities that you want to work out, right? So
Mm.
for Arthur and myself, like we pretty much play to strength, right? In terms of what areas that you're strong in, then that's the area that I tend to take on more, right?
Mm.
So even with like managing kids, I'm usually the one who is more talking through to them, the emotions part. But when it comes to, like, problem solving, then talk to your dad,
Mm.
and because
Mm.
he's just better in that space. And yeah,
Yeah.
so different things. And now the one, the kids a little bit older, so other is the one who I kind of, hey guys, these are the list of restaurants that I find, which one do you like? So he would go do that kind of thing, right?
Mm.
Yeah, so it changes to different life stage. And again, back to that basic, you do need to continue to have conversations around things, because your kids change, your life stage change, your needs
Mm.
change, right?
Mm.
And the last thing you want is to have assumptions or expectation that the other person should know, right? And you should know how to do this, you should know how to do that, where that
Mm.
is not the case. Yeah,
Yeah.
and cannot mind with each other. So again, that's back to the basics of learning how to communicate, in work.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
totally agree. I mean, you guys have your own families and things like that. But even for myself, as now we're in getting ready to think about the future kind of space with my girlfriend. I think essentially these are still as important. I mean, we don't have to talk about looking after kids or setting the tone for any family kind of arrangement yet. But I do agree that these are still key essentials that needs to be talked about lah, and then
Yeah.
planned beforehand, right? I mean, yes, like you all said, things will change as time goes, and through it we get to learn, and through it we get to understand further and tweak it accordingly as time goes on. Okay, that's what I gathered from both of you, and it's quite exciting actually to think about all these kind of things. But yeah, we shall. So I mean, for myself, I shall slowly move towards there. But yeah, thanks for that. I think we shall move on to we spoke a lot about home, right? So I think now because this whole topic is about cultivating good relationships at home and also at work. Maybe we can move on to talk about more about work now. And I think work in the workspace has been a bit more the opposite, right? A lot of times, we having issues with relationships at home and things like that is because now everyone is a scene at home, right? But now in terms of work, how do we become more intentional with those people that we are starting to lose contact with? Because now everyone's like at home doing their own things. We don't really see each other anymore. We can't even hang out. I mean, some of our friends are not vaccinated. We can't eat together. That kind of thing. And how do we actually become more intentional with these work people, and at the same time, I guess with all the projects that we have, some people might be working in teams together. How do they better this kind of relationship through online space? I'm not sure if you all have this kind of situation. Maybe Chisia, you want to answer that first? Do you have
Yeah,
clients?
yeah, that's actually a big adjustments for because I'm in a training space,
Mm,
from face to face to online. It has a huge impact on the work team, because as trainers we are by nature very people person, right?
yeah.
Not only we interact with each other a lot, but when we are at work we're also interacting with participants. So all those
Mm-hmm.
human touch was like taken away overnight, and I think emotionally it did take a toll. I don't think we went into depression, but there was just on top of the lack of human interaction, then the going onto the online platform is you're like forever working. There wasn't like a
Mm-hmm.
stop to the work. It's just kind of like you start somewhere in the daytime and you just work through, and then it doesn't have a clear like
Yeah.
separation from like work and home. Yeah,
Because
and I
Timothy don't
think
have a heart.
yeah, it's so that kind of like what you talk about, like you're at home but you're not at home. It's
Mhm.
just that we're working, and yeah, but I think as a whole, as people adjust to it, then more and more efforts have been put in terms of how do we then continue to still foster these interactions. So one of the things that like my company did was during meeting time we try to make it a little bit more fun instead of just like like just meeting. Like I remember one of the things
Mm.
that we did in the earlier days was like, hey, come to meeting but with a hat, right? So then with a hat, that people like have fun, people talk about your hats. Sometimes yeah, so it sort of lightens up and there's still that personal touch to it. Right. And the other
Mm.
thing that that's intentional because they had like what do you call break time where they have a break for like usually we have like pantry, right, in the office,
Mm.
but nowadays don't have. So then we would have break time together lah, right? So there's a
Mm.
15-minute break time starts at 3. Whoever can come and join us, so that you eat together lot on the through Zoom. Better than nothing. And
Yeah.
then lunchtime, sometimes they would then gather different people from different departments to come together, and then the company will order lunch and we'll eat lunch together, right?
Mm.
So that's actually really nice because that was not something that could happen if it hadn't been uh, through online because
Mm.
we have colleagues in Philippines, right? So hey, and then we spoke for an hour and a half to two,
Wow.
because we
Okay.
went through Zoom, and because we got put together, which is people who normally would not interact in the first place, right?
Mm.
So I thought that turned out to be something that's really cool, right? But begins there's a lot of back end preparation to make sure that this kind of interactions happen. Yeah,
Mm.
so I think it can still be done through those platforms. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's sort of some of my experiences so far. Yeah, how we can keep the human touch going. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Oh,
I think
and
it's about.
just a quick one. There's one period of time where our HOD, she actually sent us little packages, about just a little encouragement kind of card, and they got little sweets in there. So it's really nice to
Mm.
see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So stuff
It's
like
true.
that.
It's true. Yeah.
Mm.
I think. I mean, okay, it's not really a work thing, but even my church, right? During the whole pandemic situation, I guess we also try to reach out to people, and provide them some hand sanitizers and things like that. I think it's about intention lah, the way
Yeah.
I see it as well. Yeah, and it takes the tone from the company,
Yeah.
or whoever just wishes to do that as well is also truly the one that matters lah. And Tim, for yourself, do you have
Well, wasn't really working with a team during the whole pandemic.
true,
No,
true.
I mean, I've always had a preference for face-to-face
Yeah, that's
interactions.
right, right? Yeah.
I'm the guy that you want to grab a coffee. Let's go and grab a coffee. Um, when I was working regional work, it's grab a beer. So it's a lot of these things where you can sit down and you talk to people. I bring my I used to run teams, so I used to bring my teams for lunch. I used to go to have lunch with them almost every day, actually, and it
Mm.
helped to build relationships with the people in my team. So I, I'm not a very top-down kind of manager. So when we are out at lunch, I'm just like one of them. So we will just sit down and have lunch and chit chat. And I,
Mm.
I felt because of that dynamics, I built a lot of relationships that are still existing, right? So the teams that I managed over the last 10, 15 years, I still have I still have chats with them. So WhatsApp group chats. Once in a while, we'll chit chat. We try. Well, we can't arrange lunch now, but we used to arrange lunch, and once every few months we go for lunch. But we,
Mm.
we still sit down and we still talk, and we're still friends, even though we've all moved into different roles. And it's a matter
Mm.
of just being intentional in how you build relationships with them. You can be very standoffish in terms of managing people or interacting with colleagues, and you will never be able to build relationships in that sense. Right?
Mm.
Because if you don't put in effort to do it, and people don't feel comfortable with you, then they will never be able to interact with you, and with in any other capacity, but besides a boss and employee kind of a relationship. So it's you got to choose how you want to interact with people. What I've seen during the pandemic is, I mean, it's a lot of touch points. So things like Chisa mentioned, sending like a care package to your employees. Those are touch points to a certain extent, to so that people feel that they are still important, right? Still important part of the team. We still remember that you're around. We're not all online and then like, who are these people in my team? I don't know who they are. It's also very hard for people who join, move jobs during this pandemic, because you really don't have that dynamics in terms of building the relationships. You only seen people like this, virtually. You have no idea how tall they are, how short they are. I always get this, when people actually see me in person, they're like, "Wow, you're so tall!" Because when I'm sitting down, right?
That's true. That's true.
And it's one of those things. So you don't realize people are like that until you actually see them in person sometimes. And if you if you just happen to have switched jobs during this pandemic and you've been working from home the whole time, then it's very difficult also sometimes to feel like you're a part of the organization, because you just haven't had the chance to develop the relationships. I don't think it's the same. I know we were all on Zoom because it's a necessity. We're all online because we need to get things done. But I don't think long term it's a good thing in terms of relationship building. You just don't get that kind of interactions that I think people are created to interact physically with each other. That's the way we are. So interacting virtually, it just seems like a necessity for now. I rather not do it long term if I have to, but it has opened doors in terms of interactions with people in other countries. Right? So pros and cons, you can interact with people who otherwise you may not have had the opportunity to. But if you really want to build relationships, I always felt that it needs to be done face to face. Unfortunately, it's just not the same. Everything else feels very impersonal, right? I mean, even talking on a platform like this or WhatsApp, I don't know, it's just not the same. I still like the sit down and drink coffee kind of interactions.
Yeah, I'm thankful to have sit down and drink coffee with both of you. So that's nice. better than meeting via Zoom. Don't know how you look like. How tall you are. Yeah, it's very
it's very different, right?
It's very different. Yeah, like it really brings off the fact that that, okay, I guess for one, that the other person is real. That and for another, it's you can really see each other's body language. You can see each other's tone and everything. I don't know. Everything about them will showcase, and it's more believable in that sense, I feel, than how a screen like that can actually tell. But I guess we make do with what we can make do for the time being, and hopefully things get better. But yeah, I guess situations can only tell as we time goes. Yeah. And the next question that I want to ask, right, is to do with relationship handling. Sometimes, to be honest, some people can do it very well, right? Some people can really care about people all the time, be there for people all the time, and they are somehow or rather they're just not tired. Yeah, really caring and being all out for that. But most people, I guess, some of us, really, it takes a toll on us, and especially during this pandemic as well, right? So I think one of the questions that I want to pose to everyone here is more like, how can we actually balance that? How can we balance this well-being thing of, really being intentional? Because, like we mentioned, being intentional is super important, right? But sometimes people may have too many friends. I don't know, like some of them don't know who to prioritize, right? So, on that note, right, how do we really, take care of ourselves and also at the same time, take care of others in that sense? Any of you have any, maybe Chisia, you want to kickstart on that? Yeah.
I think that one boils down mostly down to whether or not you're introvert or extrovert. So it's
Mm,
really a very personal space. And if you find that you're spending time with other people a lot and then you're feeling drained about it, then that's probably a big indicator that should be a some pullback, and then
mm,
have some quiet time by yourself, right?
mm,
And I think, especially during this time, I think it has been very difficult for the extroverts, the people who draw energy from interacting with people, right? Because now it's like literally, even with this, like I don't like, I, some people don't even consider this as real human interaction, because I
mm,
can't see, feel, hear, touch you, right? And some people need that to feel energized, right? So that's more of an extrovert person. They energize by interacting with people, and then they give in that space, right? The introvert is kind of like, my maximum is like maybe like 2 hours of talk a day, and I like 2,000 words, and after that I'm done. Then after that, leave
mm,
me alone. Yeah, and there is. I think the important thing is there is no right or wrong. It just,
mm,
you really have to know how you're naturally wired, right?
mm,
And that be okay with, I only have a handful of really close friends, and I only want to see these few close friends, and social interaction, I probably keep it like maximum like maybe twice a month, and that's enough for me, right?
mm,
And that, so that I keep, so the balance is, I know my own energy, that tells me whether or not I have sufficient, right?
mm.
Yeah, so it's not like, I think it becomes a little bit of a kind of like annoying when the extrovert says, hey, come on, Leon, you gotta have to kind of make more friends, the party is really fun, otherwise you would be like, depressed and all. It's like, yeah, I
Cannot make
go,
it. Cannot make it.
okay, right? Or or the extrovert expect that the introvert to be like quiet, can you just like, don't talk so much. um yeah, I think the first step is really knowing your own needs, and knowing what works for you,
True. Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
That's
then
true.
how to stretch yourself if you wanted to either expand a little bit on your social skills, or to learn to be by yourself. Because extroverts, you're with people all the time, it doesn't mean it's a good thing, because a lot of
Mm,
extroverts don't know how to spend time with themselves, which is a very
Mm.
that's
important
true.
place to self-reflect, right?
Mm,
Yeah. So I is there a balance, kind of like a formula for it? I don't think so, because I think every individual is different, and your
mm.
job nature also requires you to be functioning differently.
Yeah,
Yes,
Okay.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah. So I think even like with in insurance, I don't think every insurance person has to be talking all the time, right?
Mm.
But you may just talk in a more casual sense. Some may be, more. I don't know. It really, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
Yeah.
it really is personality, I think, in a sense. Like when people see me in a work situation, a lot of them think I'm extroverted, but I'm not. So it's to me it's functional in a sense, right? So because
Yep.
I've been doing sales a lot my entire career, and so you put me in that kind of situation, then it sort of comes out.
Mm.
But in my
Like now.
natural self, like now, like so now I talk a lot, but my natural self is I would keep quiet and just hide in one corner, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm just naturally introverted.
Mm.
Just over the years, I've developed the the that that functional side of my when I need to turn it on for work, and
Mm.
it just works, right? So most people don't realize it until they spend a bit more time with me. That I'm not really like that. I'm actually a lot more introverted than my wife.
mm,
Right?
Really?
Yeah, you can tell. Right, so I'm actually a lot more introverted than her, but I'm more social than her. So I do enjoy going out to meet people. She doesn't.
Mm.
She was there.
Ah. Okay. Okay.
So it's really personality. It's not.
yeah,
So I don't think it's just introvert extrovert. It's really what kind of personality you have and what kind of interactions you crave. Right. So I
Mm.
do go out and meet people and have coffee and sit down with them, and part of it is sort of nurtured from work, over the years. But I do enjoy sitting down and talking to people as well. And I do
Mm.
especially enjoy sitting down and talk to people when there's no agenda. right? When it was work, you're always trying to achieve something. Nowadays when you have coffee, sometimes it's just to get to know people, right? Sometimes it's just to sit there and talk to people and understand what they're doing, and or possibly look at ways we can collaborate, or just know if there's anything that we can value at each other, right? Or something that you talk about that can just click and say that suddenly everything makes sense because of a statement that you made. And so it's very different for different people, I think. Right?
Yeah,
So
I
it
mean, when you
varies, but-
mention, all this, I think I agree lah. I mean, like the whole topic we were been talking about relationships, it's an ever changing thing, and I totally agree because, like for myself, I think I've been through, like I don't know, my personality probably changed from introvert to extrovert a bit to ambivert, whatever bird like all the bird, right? So it's quite yeah, it's quite interesting because as we like you mentioned about functional, like yeah, when we place in certain situations, we definitely become a bit more different in terms of how we interact with people, how we put ourselves up there, and including like I used to think networking and speaking with people is a waste of time, to be honest, right? Because I used to see in uni, everyone who are in networking situations, they just join because they want to get a job or something, and they start to run all the way to the HR manager just to get to speak with them and things like that. So I thought it was very wayang lah. So I didn't really like that. So to me, networking felt like this kind of thing I rather not have lah, kind of situation. But as I grew up and as I got exposed, really I started to realize that like what Tim said, it doesn't really have to be about agendas, right? Networking is really about there putting yourself to learn more about people, talk to them, like for example the first time I met you, Chisia, it's just really just to chit chat, right? And figure out what you're doing, what what I'm doing, and just enjoying that whole process of value adding in that sense. And I thought that was very powerful and something that actually everyone should do. If you really put the intention behind it, the intention doesn't have to be just for the sake of work wise, but just really to learn and understand people better. And I think that's very nice lah. I like that lah. More than whatever agendas there are, transactional or whatnot. Yeah.
But you get a lot of those, like you get a lot of people trying to sell stuff and but it's a lot of it is about being real, and being authentic to yourself, and sometimes it's being upfront. I mean, if you really dare to share something with somebody, then just say it upfront. I don't have any hidden agendas. At least people know what you're trying to do. I mean, to be fair, I know when people are trying to sell me things lah. The moment they start with their pitch, I already know where they're going, and sometimes I just let them finish because I think sometimes they need to practice lah. So
That's when you're kind enough to let them practice lah.
so they really need to practice lah. So I see the way they start, and I'm like, oh no. I say you need to do role play with me. I'll do role play with you lah.
It was like at the end,
Like that.
at the end, you can sell them your coaching skills. Okay.
So okay, come
on your
join
sales.
me. I will coach you on how to do sales. I said I've done this for 20 years. I'll tell you how to do it. So
Oh my goodness.
I do sometimes let them do it because I know where they're going, and sometimes I do feel that you cut them off, they feel terrible because they wanted to do something and they don't get it done. It's like unfinished business, right? So I just let them finish, and then they feel like they've done their part to do their pitch, and then at the end of the day, I tell them, no, if I wanted to buy, I would buy it. Just don't push me. I've decided, this is not for me now. Right, so I will tell them upfront that don't bother to try to push me because I already decided that I'm not doing it. But thanks for telling me all this information. Right, it's really useful. So I mean, people do have different agendas when they meet with you, but I think it's always about being upfront and being real and being authentic. Right, John, I'm going to ask you something. So we talked about relationships, right? And we've talked about well, Chisia and I come from a probably different era, unfortunately. So So you can see the dynamics of relationships have changed over the years. I mean, I look at my parents, and relationships were very different then. right? In the beginning, Chisia talked about being together for long term, but not being able to have a fruitful relationship. That typifies my grandparents and sometimes my parents' era, right? A lot of them stay together, but they cannot stand each other. But they stay together because during that time it was not, things like divorce wasn't the thing, right? Whereas now you're seeing it a lot more. So the question is, how do people in your age group view relationships with each other, right? Whether it's in relationships or whether it's just friends, because I get the sense that they view it very differently from people. Unfortunately, I'm going to use this term, but it's my generation.
Yeah.
That's very sad to say, but but we are quite far apart, lah. So
Yeah, not very lah, okay lah, but yeah. Yeah, I think
Not very okay, but yeah.
not very okay, but yeah, no, see, people in my generation don't say that.
So yeah.
Okay, I mean, interesting that you asked me this question because, yeah, I like to listen to people who are older than me on this kind of point of view. But I think it helps also to help older generations understand our point of views. But I guess what older generations or even the generations now see in my generation is that a lot of divorces are happening. A lot of people are changing girlfriend here and there, boyfriend here and there. Like nobody's really truly committed, I think. But I don't speak for the whole generation. I mean, there are still gems of people who are seeking relationships that truly matter. And I think the cool thing about our generation is that we see how our parents' generation, really, like what you say, your grandparents' side, like they're there maybe just to be there and, don't really see love sometimes. Or you think you see love, but you don't really understand where the love is coming from. Maybe they do behind your back or whatever, you don't know, right? But we don't get to see that. And I guess from each generation to each generation, my generation starts to learn definitely from the previous one. I can't say for your children because your children are probably considered a younger generation than mine, but like they do see what you guys are doing, right? So I guess for my generation, we really we have a wealth of information out there, I must say, which is as compared to previous generation, right? Where we have the internet, we have Instagram, we have social media, we get to see what we want to shape things as. I guess it's a double-edged sword, if I were to put it that way. We know what we kind of want, but at the same time, we know that what we want is kind of impossible to get. So therein lies the need to find a balance, and I think, which is why nowadays, you get to see in my generation, a lot of people are moving towards dating platforms. Which is definitely different from the past, right? Where we looked into having to spend some time with people in secondary school, uni, and then after that, getting together. For mine, I guess people aren't really resilient to a certain extent as well, I feel. Like sometimes some guys want to chase and chase halfway, don't want to chase already. Girls also chase halfway, don't want to chase. On girls, I feel like in our culture, girls are more passive. They want guys to do something, right? I don't know if that's the case for last time, but nowadays it's like that. So I guess, and all these people, we tend to have a lot of expectations already because we know and see how people are. So it gets very difficult in order to fill up those expectations. So a lot of people move on to dating platforms because it eradicates the fact that I need to play the guessing game, Yeah. Because now you don't have to guess. If you're in a dating platform, you're highly likely more than not looking for someone in a more serious relationship. So a lot of people love that now. And a lot of people do actually get together through that. Yeah, I mean, there are many different dating platforms like Coffee Meet Bagel, Tinder, and everything. I mean, of course, Tinder, it's for, I don't know, yeah, but there are better platforms out there, right? Bumble and things like that. So I think there's definitely a shift to your answer, to answer your question. And but I don't see it as a bad thing because with all this information, people do know what they want and they will chase for it more. Which is why I feel also that not many people are getting into a relationship anymore. Because the fact of the matter is that most people also feel that they are well, they can look after themselves very well, and they don't really need another partner. Yeah. So it's really a double-edged sword in any circumstance. And I think that, well, I don't know how the future generations will be. I don't know how your children will be. I don't know how my children will be. But yeah, we do learn from one generation to another. And I feel like, yeah, it's definitely different, and it's definitely exciting to see where this goes. But yeah, like that long. Yeah, that answers your question. And I realized it's 59 minutes already. Yeah.
Then I think I just want to respond to that a little bit. I think it doesn't
Mm,
matter what generations of marriage we're talking about. I think just we're all wired for that need of intimacy,
mm,
right? For the need to be really close to somebody. And I think what needs to change is not the commitment, but the way the partnership looks like, right? And then I think the traditional model of marriage no longer works in the current context of how we're raised, right? And there's a little bit of
mm,
blame. Next generation is raised by us, right? We are the ones who provide the resources, the perspective, whatever else that is, right? So I just think as more resources, more knowledge comes in, then the partnership would have to look different. And then it
mm,
is for the next generation to craft out. Yeah, your parents' model doesn't work for you. Then find a model that works for you, right?
That's
Because
very true.
ultimately you still want the intimacy. It's just that your parents didn't role model that for you, right? But
Mm,
you could still, because but you still want it. That's why you're together.
yep,
You're
yep.
together hoping to find that. So find a model that works for you, and you cannot do that without communication. Again, resolving differences and have a model that works for you. But I think
Mm,
with the new generation, there are just a lot more different models of coming together. The partnership is going to
mm,
be different, right?
it's
Whereas
true.
traditionally, it's only one of the model, right? That just,
Mm,
and if you not don't fall within this, there's something wrong with the marriage, right?
mm,
So I think that there needs to be a more diversified definition of what a good marriage looks like moving forward.
Mm.
Okay, and the other thing is that's really interesting because I've been running marriage prep for the past 20 years, and then have seen how couples evolved over the years. The recent evolution is we are getting more and more couples who met on the app,
yep.
right? And these are professionals, okay? These are people
Mm,
who hold high-paying jobs, right? And so
mm,
it's no longer in the past where you go on the app because I cannot find anybody, you know? But no, no, no,
yeah.
no, not like that. These are like solid people, but I got no time to date. Let's just do the app thing. And that they've
Mm,
known each other, quite a few of the couples known each other for less than 1 year. Okay.
yeah.
But the good thing is these couples already know that they could actually find resources to help them strengthen the relationship.
Mm,
Right. So
mm,
they will attend marriage prep classes. And
mm.
both of them come to the marriage prep classes willingly. Whereas in the earlier generation is one person sign up, two-person show up. Lah. Usually it's the guy who
Yeah,
object. Lah. Right. But
yeah.
now the trend is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'm curious. I'm not sure. I'm maybe excited to find how these couples fare
Mm,
in
Mm.
the years ahead as they move along this marriage path, right? Because they're
mm,
obviously a lot more open for intervention, right? They're
yeah.
more open to communicate and talk things through, even at the early
Mm,
stage of marriage, right? Yeah.
yeah.
So I think every phase is going to be different. Yeah. So just quick respond to that.
Yeah, but it's
And
also
I
because there are more resources available for them, right?
yeah
I
yeah
mean, previously you don't hear of all these resources. There probably were, but not as widely available. And of course,
Mm,
with the advent of the internet, you can search for anything under the sun nowadays. And you can
mm,
access information and you can access any information that you really want. But you also can access people, right? So
yeah
people who can help you, people like yourself who can help people. over different platforms, even over different geographies in that sense, right? So
Yeah.
there is, so the fact that there are more resources and the fact that people are more used to self-serving in that sense, in terms of finding resources, I think it makes it a lot easier for people to address some of the deficiencies in their relationships quicker.
Mm.
Whereas previously it was like, just blind leading the blind. We hope for the best and we just try to figure out what we're supposed to do right or wrong. And then at some point in time, if it gets too bad, then we just bury our head in the sand like an ostrich.
Yeah.
And I think because of that awareness, and the fact that people know that there are things out there that can help them,
Yes.
I think it helps to develop the people if they're willing to spend the effort and the time to develop the relationship. Right? So it does bode well for the future for some of these relationships. But it's also a matter, I feel a lot of times it's also the expectations of each other, right? In terms of the speed of how things you want to change, how you view each other and what you, like Leon mentioned, in terms of the ideal situations that you want your partner to be like. And sometimes the expectations just don't match up over time.
Mm.
And that's the danger of the society that we live in. We have very little patience for a lot of things. Everything needs to be instant, everything needs to be quick. And sometimes we treat our relationships like that. If they don't get the results that you want quickly, then it's on to the next one. If you don't change the way I think you're going to change, then on to the next one. And that's the danger that I see currently in terms of how people are building relationships. So there's a flip side to everything that we have, in a sense, in terms of the current environment that we're in. Right? And I think it's something that we really need to pay attention to. I'm sure you're seeing couples like that as well, where it's about expectations. It's about looking at how we can work through some of these things as well. Yeah. So I think we've exceeded the time a little bit, but thank you so much, Shisia, for being on this dialogue. It was really, we had a really good time chatting. Why don't I leave you with a chance to just talk about what you have upcoming in terms of your programs and even how they can contact you and reach out to you if they're interested in addressing some of these issues in their relationships.
Yeah. Well, thanks for this. I think what I just wanted to perhaps leave is, as you mentioned, there are a lot of resources, a lot of information out there, and there's no lack of it. Many of us would be able to find this information and resources helpful, as long as you apply and you're able to make it work for you. Right. But we are also in this space where sometimes there's so much information out there that you actually don't know what to apply. Or some information is almost conflicting. In parenting, in marriage, some say you should do this, some say you should never do that. Then what, right? So you end up being more confused. So this is the space where I would like to step in, and especially for couples or parent-child relationship where you have actually been trying many different ways, and it doesn't seem to yield the outcome that you want, which is a solid, good, intimate relationship. Right, where you enjoy each other's presence and be with each other. So this is where we want to come in and support you, where perhaps there are certain things that need to be applied differently. Perhaps there are blind spots, perspectives, beliefs, expectations. Sometimes it's very hard for us to be aware of it ourselves when we're in it. Okay, so I come in as a coach, as a third person, to just facilitate that space for couples as well as for parent-child. Right, so that all the efforts that you put in will be moving you towards the direction that you would like to go. Right, we acknowledge it is tough, and sometimes just having somebody to journey with us alongside can be something that can be helpful. Right, so how do I leave like contact or stuff like?
Leave contact.
You can drop it in the contact comments section actually. John, you can drop that for her, right?
Okay. Yeah, can. Yeah. I'll get them to interact with you via Facebook. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Facebook is good. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if there's anybody who like I would have a chat with you and see whether or not that's something that we can work together on. Should you be in any stage in your relationship that you're struggling, I'd be happy to have a chat. Okay.
Yep.
Great.
All right.
So yeah. Okay, I already put it in the chat. I don't know why is it not linked. We'll see how that works. So should be able to link over. Okay, never mind. We'll sort it out somehow. But no worries. We'll make sure that Chisia's contact is able to be shown in the comment section. So for those who wish to connect with Chisia, please feel free to do so. She's definitely someone who is, to me, I feel like she's really the expert in relationships and marriage and even couples and things like that. Because I've spoken to her as well, to share her expertise, and she really gave me a very good insights lah, that I didn't really see for myself. So definitely do reach out to Chisia as well. So yeah, we want to really thank Chisia and for really being here with us throughout this whole Supercharge Dialogue series. And I think we actually exceeded quite a bit, but I think today's topic really was quite a lot of things to really be said lah. And to be honest, relationships is something that we should really treasure in life. And we are really glad for those of you who have been here with us. Even though you guys may be afraid to ask some questions, but don't worry, there will always be other Supercharged Dialogue series that we'll be doing. And if you really want to ask questions, feel free to type in the comments as well. Okay, and sometimes we might miss out some lah, but it's okay. We will definitely get that. Maybe ask Chisia later on if she can answer a few, and then we'll post it back on the comments. So thank you everyone for joining us for this Supercharged Dialogue. We'll see you on the next one, maybe in a month's time. And we'll let you know what the topic is. Okay, so everyone, see you. Bye bye.
See you.
Thanks for your time.
Bye.
Bye.